Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face and my card making space. And apologies, I might sound a little funny from here on out for the next little while. I just got braces, so still adjusting to them. A little bit of a lisp. We'll just see how this all works. We'll see what happens. Anyway, that little disclaimer aside, Simon Says Stamp just had a new release. I will have a link to the new release in the description box below the video. Lots and lots of beautiful things to choose from. I zeroed in on this Pristine Lilac embossing folder. Love. Love. Absolutely love. I have a playlist of videos I've done using embossing folders over the years. That playlist has, I think, well over 100 videos in it at this point. I will link to that playlist at the end of this video. You can check it out. One of the things I've done many times is the blackout embossing folder technique. It's super fun. It's really easy. And it just gives a different look to your embossing folders. So that's what I did with this embossing folder. I pulled out a few oldie but goodie products to use with it as well, along with one of the new stamp sets that Kathy Zilski designed that I just, perfection, love it, must have. And yeah, as always, everything I used will be listed and linked in the description box below the video. My links are affiliate links. That just means that if you click on one of my links and end up placing an order, I do get a little kickback from that at no extra cost to you. That is what helps pay the bills, keeps my heaters running, enables me to keep bringing out content. And yeah, let's get into making the card. So off camera, I took a piece of Simon Says Stamp's smooth white cardstock, and I'd already lightly misted one side of it with water. That just softens the paper fibers a bit, so you get a better embossed impression. I don't always do this. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. Just depends on my mood, but I did it this time, and then I put it into the Pristine Lilac embossing folder, and with my Anna Griffin Empress machine and Simon Says Stamp's 3D embossing folders, I find that the folder and just one cutting plate works. If your machine is slightly different or you're not getting a deep enough impression, you can also add the metal shim. I have not ever needed to do that, but you can do that, or even like a piece of cardstock, depending on, it just is going to depend on your machine. So after I embossed it, I flipped it over. So instead of the raised edge facing me like a normal embossing folder, the raised impression, I'm working on the back of this piece of cardstock. So all of the detail is debossed, so pressed into the cardstock. And that's what you need when you're doing the blackout embossing folder technique. And then I'm taking various shades of Simon's Positively Saturated inks and just small blending brushes and blending color on, which this is going to look a little bit like a hot mess because I'm obviously going outside of like the design areas, but that's not going to matter. So for the greenery of this, I used CELERY ink and then Cabbage ink. And then for the lilac cluster, I started with Heather, just a light purple. This is more of like a blue purple. And got that on there. And then I'm going to add lilac, which is more of like a pinky sort of purple, and like blending them together. I love lilacs. They're so pretty. Way too early in the season up here in Saskatchewan for these. They don't bloom till, goodness, mid-June, something like that. Love them. And I have a pink one, or I tried to grow a pink one in my backyard. Didn't take. I have a little dwarf one that I planted in the front of my house that is supposed to bloom yellow lilacs. I'm super excited. It's been growing very, very slowly. I don't know when I'll get blooms on it, but there's something though about just the classic purple lilacs, like forever love them. Anyway, I went in with the two darker shades, which was Orchid and Violet, and did the same thing. Just kind of slapped the color on, blended them together, let them do their thing. This just creates a little more interest to this design. And then I'm going in with a black ink pad. And this is where it like freaks people out. Trust me, this is really fun. The one thing you will notice though is you will immediately be able to tell whether or not your ink pad needs to be re-inked. This is one of my VersaFine Claire Nocturne ink pads. I have multiples of this because this is one of my most used ink. I use this to stamp sentiments. I use this to stamp images when I want to watercolor. I don't use this for alcohol marker coloring. They do say that you can like stamp this and clear heat emboss it and use alcohol markers. I still don't. That's not my thing. But this is one of my most used ink pads, and this one is getting really dry. Still worked, but like I said, you'll just know. So I hold the ink pad flat, and I do not apply very much pressure. I run it across this cardstock. And again, it's going to depend on what sort of look you're going for. For this one, I decided to like fully cover the cardstock. I didn't want any texture. I've done it before though, where you just lightly brush it on and you leave a lot of that, texture left by the ink pad, like how it looks in the upper right there. Again, it just depends on what you want to do. Do you want that texture? Do you want it solid, etc.? And you can do this with different colors. I've shown it with different colors. The thing to remember though is depending on the color of inks you blend on and how intense they are, if you're doing anything other than black, the other colors might not cover that mess, outside the image, if that makes sense. So black is always your best bet, obviously, but like everything, experiment, see what happens. You never know. So I just worked my way across this. You are going to get ink everywhere. I got it all over my hands. That's fine. I did heat set this, and I actually left it overnight to dry, which normally I don't do. I talk about this. I don't have patience. I don't have time. I don't have energy. But because of everything I had going on, I left it to fully dry overnight. It was fine. But heat setting it would have worked too, just to like move on to the next step. And then what I decided to do is I pulled out these Altenew acrylic paint markers. They had a set that they released quite some time ago, like a year ago, something like that. And then this is the second volume, so just more colors. And I took the purple one from that set, so this is Water Hyacinth, and I just used it to dot the little centers of all these little lilac blooms. It's very subtle. You can see it more in real life, but it just gives that little extra something. If you wanted it to be more obvious, you could use a different color, like a brown or a white would look really nice too. Or you could use like a metallic one, like use gold. That would look gorgeous. I went for subtle though. So I just used it to dot those little flower centers. And then I trimmed this down. My panel originally was larger than an A2 piece of cardstock, like 4¼ by 5½, because I wasn't sure if I wanted this to fully cover my card front. Because when you emboss, if you take, say you start with an A2 panel and then you run it through with an embossing folder, don't be surprised if when you go to adhere it to your card, it's smaller than the card base, because that cardstock has to go somewhere. It needs to be pressed, up and down and around into the panel, and that'll shrink the finished size. So I had started with something slightly larger than A2. And then when I did trim it down, I trimmed it down to slightly smaller. I ended up trimming it down to about 4 by 5¼ And then I put it in my splat box, because of course we're going to add a little bit of splatter. And I'm starting with some of the Picket Fence Studios liquid white snowflake paper splatter that I love. Another option is Ranger Perfect Pearl Powder. I've shown that in a ton of videos in the past. Just mixing a little bit of water with Perfect Pearl Powder and splattering that on. It'll give you that same like shimmery effect. So I put that onto my palette, and then I splattered that with my fan brush. And I kept a lot of the splatter more contained to the like actual lilac bloom. And at the end, like I'll tilt it in light and you can just see the shimmer. It's beautiful. Love it. And then of course I took a little bit of white gouache, added some water to that, thinned that out, and then I'm going to splatter this as well. And I went with a bit of a lighter hand than what I normally do, because usually I'm like splattering 3 ways from Sunday and let's just cover the whole thing. I went light-handed for once. Shocker. So just a little bit. The splatter also helps, especially if you've got like texture or you've made any mistakes. Splatter helps, kind of cover that up or distract the eye. And then once it was dry, I actually went back in with that little Water Hyacinth acrylic marker and just used that to add like basically purple splatter. Just because you can't really tell on camera like the difference, but again, in real life you can see it. They're just little purple splatters just for the fun of it. So I did all of that. And then I pulled out, I talked about this in a recent video, I think it was the card kit. that when when I unboxed the card kit, you got a sheet of this in Simon's May card kit. It was, you got a piece of the ice vellum. So in this release, Simon's released 3 new shades of vellum, and they're all shimmery. So there's ice vellum, silver vellum, and bronze vellum, and like they're shimmery. You guys know I love me my vellum, and I love shimmer vellum. So this first one, that's ice. That's the ice vellum. And then this one is the silver. And then the last one is the bronze. And there is also a little multi-pack where you get 2 of each. That's what I was just showing. I'll link to all of them. It's definitely one of those things where what you see online does not translate to how it looks in real life. That's always with shimmer vellums. I have purchased so many over the years and shown you guys in so many videos. And then when you actually look at it online, it's like, oh, this looks ugly. But when you get it in real life, it's like, oh, now I see. Like, Amy's not completely crazy. You know, there's a method to the madness. So, back to what I was doing. I took the ice vellum, and I am die cutting because this is what I prefer. This is why I love shimmery vellums. I use them for wings, like my butterflies and my dragonflies, things like that. You can use them for so many other things as well, but that's like my go-to. So I pulled out, this is the oldie but goodie Adeline butterfly wafer die that I've used in tons and tons of videos. And I die cut the wings from the ice vellum. And then the bodies I die cut from scraps of black cardstock. And then what I decided to do, and I don't do this very often, but I was like, I wonder. So I did test this out. I always recommend test it out, especially something like this. Test it out depending on what kind of vellum you have, because they do vary. It just depends. But I tested this out on a scrap of that same ice vellum, and I liked how it looked. So I took some of that lilac ink and my little blending brush, and I just blended this right on the top, and it dried. Sometimes things just don't like to dry on vellum. Sometimes adding color, the best thing to do is to add it from the back. But with this, I found that you couldn't really tell at all that I'd done anything if I added the ink on the back. So I added it to the front, and it dried pretty quickly, and it just gives it that nice little tint. So now I'm like, the wheels are turning. Maybe more ideas in the future. But now I've got these like shimmery purpley pink, because the lilac shade is more of a like pinky purple color. So I blended that on with the blending brush, and then just adhered the bodies to the butterfly wings with a little dab of craft tacky glue. And then I've got these purpley shimmery butterflies with their delicate little wings, and it just makes me happy. So once I got those adhered into place, another thing I had done was I pulled out the Here For You wafer die. This came out a couple years ago from CZ Design. And I didn't use the outline. I used just the word wafer die. And I die cut that from the same black cardstock. And then, as is tradition, adhere 3 layers together. Die cut it 3 times, adhere the 3 layers together. Because dimension is life. It's what we're all here for. And it just looks better. It really does. So I adhered these together with craft tacky glue. Sped this up in editing. Still doesn't take very long, but added my glue, pressed everything together, got it all lined up. And then for the inside of the card, this is the new set from Kathy Zielski. This is the Inside Greetings 1. I like that there's a number on it, because that means maybe she'll do like a second set, a third set. You guys know, I always got to put something on the inside of the card. I am here for this set. There's a lot of good phrases and sentiments in here. So I took one of the sentiments from that, and I'm stamping that onto the inside of the card with that Nocturne ink. My card base, top folding A2 white note card, so 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And then that second butterfly, I adhered that to the inside of the card, finished it off perfectly. Love. And then I pulled out a panel of, this is Simon's lavender cardstock that I had cut to slightly larger than the lilac panel. So this panel was like 1/8 of an inch bigger on each side, something like that. And then I roughed it up with my Tim Holtz paper distresser, because I like that texture, you know? It just gives it a little extra something. So I roughed that up with the tool, and then I'm going to adhere these layers together with craft tacky glue. And then once I've got those lined up and adhered, which takes a second, because once I've roughed out the edges and they're so narrow, as you can see, like I cut it as close as I could, because I just wanted that little border to bring out that purple color even more. So got those adhered together, and then I can adhere this to my card base, also with Craft Tacky glue. So get that pressed into place, and then I can adhere my sentiment and my little butterfly, and same thing, just use Craft Tacky glue, trace the back, adhered it into place, and yeah, this was another one of those cards. It's basically everything's like fairly simple, and yet it's just got that punch. That lilac is just lovely. It's lovely. So adhered the sentiment into place, and then adhered my little butterfly. And like I always do when it comes to little critters like this, I only apply adhesive behind the body. I let the wings like pop up, builds dimension without any actual bulk. And then as my final little bit of embellishment, I've got the Lilac Pawsitively Dazzling gems from Simon, which, like I always say, they look like nothing on the card base, like when I'm filming straight down, because these are pretty when the light catches. So filming with them, not the funnest. Actually using them, fabulous. And when I tilt the card, you can actually see it. You can kind of see it in the container or in the little boop dish too, the ones that are kind of on an angle. They reflect really nicely, but yeah, they always look so blah when I'm filming. But anyway, picked them up with my embellishment wand, adhered them into place with Craft Tacky glue. I let the glue dry, and now when I move the card around, you can see the reflection. Got my shimmery splatter, my shimmery butterfly wings. That embossing folder is amazing. Oh, I forgot to mention, there is a coordinating wafer die for that embossing folder too. I don't have it, but I'll put links to it so you can check it out. I thought that was pretty sweet too. So, like everything, I'll have links to all the things in the description box below. And then I'll link to that playlist at the very end as well. And yeah, thank you guys so much for hanging out with me, for thumbs upping and commenting. It helps a ton, and I very much appreciate it. And I will see you all very soon in the next video. Bye. Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in joining my Patreon community and supporting me, the link to my Patreon is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't, I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye!